Good morning and good afternoon to everybody. And thanks wow, this is the third time in a row that I'm presenting at SauceCon. So I hope I will still be able to meet the expectations. I thank, of course, the Sauce Lab guys for having me here, for inviting me. And so what am I going to be talking about today? Well, it's about the future of testing. But I don't want to talk about like testing on steroids. I want to talk about the near future, right? What I pragmatically and concretely see happening. So it's nothing revolutionary in terms of something totally new, but it's really, it's really grounded in what we're doing today, but how we need to make that better, and what is it that's going to happen that I think will help us make things better for testing. So the first thing is that testing is a very important business matter. If you look at the World Quality Report, 2020 World Quality Report, you can see that 74% of respondents, and this is like over 170,000 professionals surveyed, executives surveyed, managers and executives surveyed, believe that business assurance contributes to the business growth, of a company, and therefore to business outcomes. So, of course, business assurance is all about testing. And so testing is definitely supporting all your companies to be more successful from a business perspective. And you can see that that number has increased from 2018. It's kind of plateaued between 2019 and 2020, but it's a high number. I also like to do my own desk research. And actually, I had a really good research associate that works with me that does, a colleague of mine that goes out and does some scanning and found these interesting statements in 10K documents of some very important brands that you can see here: Walmart, United Healthcare, CVS Health. And if you read these statements, basically, they all speak quality, right? They all say the same thing, that quality is key to the success, to the business success of their company. And the results, and not just from a technical perspective, right? This is not just about a bug happening in production, which is, by the way, unacceptable these days and could really damage brands. But it's also sometimes simply the services, the products not meeting the level of quality that the business expects them to meet in terms of functionality as well. So it could be technical, functional, and quality. And this is at the executive level, right? However, despite the importance, of course, we have a lot of challenges still in the testing world. Budget pressure, still, and I think that's also emphasized with the pandemic. I would say 3 years ago, we were seeing as an objective of any CIO, decreasing costs was going from the first place to the second to the third to even lower over the last few years. So it was like not becoming the number one objective, but I guess the pandemic has brought it up again back as one important objective of any organization, which is to do more with less and to save, as much as possible. But and so there is some budget pressure that sometimes limits the amount of testing that gets done. And if the budget gets cut on testing, if testing is done as an afterthought and it's not done even in an agile way from the very beginning, it will cause quite a bit of problems. The other challenge is that organizations are, yes, moving to the cloud. So they are introducing new technologies, new platforms, serverless containers, Kubernetes, all these great technologies. There's a fragmentation of technology that is happening on the back end, on the front end, mobile devices, web, IoT. And so all that together with the legacy makes it quite hard to automate across such a heterogeneous amount of technology. Access to test environments and technical tools is also another issue that clients claim they have challenges with. Getting the right technical skills, but also the domain skills, the business domain skills is an impediment for testing. Test data, getting access to the test data, creating test data, managing test data in an agile world where test data needs to be provisioned continuously, where it will change continuously, is a problem. So, test data is nothing new, of course, but if you think about it, it doesn't really matter if we automate our testing and we automate it and we have a great process if at the end of the day we're testing those cases with wrong or bad or bad test data. And of course there's all the issues around test data which are tied to GDPR and to the compliance and to confidentiality and so forth. They also claim they have some challenges with navigating, the market of all the different multiple types of products that exist, to the type of services. Services of testing is a huge market, many vendors, and trying to partner with the right ones is a challenge for clients. And last but not least, and not less important, is this challenge of moving from manual to automation. And what you can see that despite all the efforts, innovation that is happening, and there is quite a bit of innovation happening, probably that innovation hasn't yet created the amount of automation that organizations are looking for. As you can see in the last 6 years, this is the State of Agile survey that we run every 2 years. You can see that test automation seems to have plateaued. You can see that more or less we're around, going all the way from 37% to 46%. It's a range of about 10%, but it's below 50%. Which is for teams that are trying to be agile, that are on the agile journey and adopting DevOps, is not a great number. It's not too bad, but it's not a great number. It's not how much they need to automate in order to really be agile, which we know has to be at higher levels, right? On average, around 80% of all the test cases would be nice to have those automated in order to be able to really support a continuous delivery process. Now, if you look at the data from another angle, from the other side, from the manual, from the question of asking how much manual testing do you do? Is it always? Is it periodically? Is it rare? Well, the always answer of 46% in 2000 and 49% in 2015 went down to 46% in 2017 and still is around 46% in 2019, which means that the level of manual testing has not decreased. Okay, so, and that just, again, confirms that we're kind of, that we've kind of seemed to have reached the ceiling of the level of automation that we can get at. Now, question might be, why is that? I think it's a number of factors, and one of them is that, which is a big one, of course, is that really we need to modernize testing. And to modernize testing, there's a number of things that we need to do. And these are some of the trends that organizations are leveraging to modernize the way they test. And it's a trend that impacts the practices, organization, and the technology stack, right? And so that's why it's hard, right? This is not just about buying a tool, adopting a tool, and being able to achieve high levels of automation. The way we need to test, working in an integrated environment with developers that are adopting agile techniques, that are working with and adopting DevOps techniques, takes really an evolution on all three of these aspects, introducing new practices such as test-driven development, which is actually a new way of developing software, or behavior-driven development, which is more of a testing practice, which starts from the very beginning and uses, descriptive high-level languages. Shifting testing left, which is nothing new, I guess, but something that these teams need to really do in terms of starting the testing very early on and having the having testers being involved or testing starting from the very beginning when we start and initiate a project or a product development. Which doesn't mean just writing unit tests, right? Just as many might think, it's like, well, I'm doing all my unit tests. That's the shift left. That's my shift left effort, and well, that's not enough, right? Where it's really about looking at the different aspects of testing that need to be done from the very beginning, which go beyond unit testing, which will also involve functional testing, which will involve integration testing as we develop the features. Are they well integrated? And we need to test that. Is the load and performance done right? And is there anything I can do early on to kind of prevent it from being slow, for the applications of being slow? It also is shifting testing right, which is going into production and having monitoring and seeing what's going on for the applications and the features that are deployed. And is there anything that I can prevent early on as I kind of have this window into production now, especially with, again, moving to the cloud. This is even more likely to happen and an opportunity for testers to testers and developers to have this, this window in production. Things like chaos testing as well. There's monitoring. There's many A/B testing from a functional perspective. There's many types of testing done in production that we're seeing as a trend. Replacing manual testing with exploratory testing wherever not everything is going to be automated, and so the traditional manual tests will be replaced by new techniques like exploratory testing, more ad hoc testing. Getting developers and testers, together quickly and testing the system, maybe on edge cases that might not need to be automated or too hard and too expensive to automate. All to the new organization, which is reorganizing completely testing, the concept of the test center of excellence that now is federated with testers that are part of the teams instead of being just all centralized. The centralized team is just like overseeing, coaching, consulting eventually for the tools, for the automation patterns and other the metrics that need to be used, all the way to the technology stack, which focuses on automation, of course, providing tools that support API testing, that integrate into CI/CD, that provide version control, that also provide services for service utilization, test data management, and provisioning tests environments very quickly. And the ultimate trend there is this is all being infused with AI and machine learning, right? That's the trend we're seeing. Now, so another trend that we've seen in the past, and that's still staying, but I think this is where I'm going to be introducing the biggest, change I see happening, is that with Agile and DevOps, we've tried to involve developers more actively in the testing, and that's happening. However, it's not happening as much as many would like it to. In other words, there are organizations that just have abolished the term tester and have just adopted the concept of a quality engineer. Now, that's cool. That's great. We do need quality engineers, but they're not taking on all of the testing that needs to be done. As you can see here, they're actually really spending much less, I would say more or less around 1 hour than 4 a day on these different types of testing. And also the other interesting thing, which is just a side effect of the data that this slide shows, is they're not even in agreement with their managers on how much testing they're really doing. Managers are much more optimistic about how much testing testers are actually doing in their own organization. The point I want to make, and this is not new, if you've listened to many of the webinars that I run, you see me always saying this because I really believe this is true, which is developers are neutral to or hate testing. I used to say just developers hate testing. Some of them are neutral, right? But in any way, just independently, if they're neutral or hate testing or like testing, they really don't have the mentality of testers in terms of really, doing a good job at functional testing or at doing some of the different types of testing that are needed. Developers will like the happy paths, right? So, and also they don't have time to do all the testing anyway, right? Developers should be focusing on writing great new functionality and features. Doubles their time to also take care of testing. And I think that's a big problem. So how do we, and that's an impediment for increasing the level of automation and for doing a better job at testing. So how do we get over that? Well, testing takes a village. It can't be just a developer testers. It can't be just a technical tester. It can't be just a business tester, but it's basically the collaboration of all these type of personas that really is needed for testing, for different types of tasks, for the different types of testing during different times in the life cycle. So let's take a look at these multiple personas. So that's the trend. That's a new trend. It's realizing and just admitting that we can't just give all the testing to any one single person of these in any organization. So let's spend a few words on each one of them. This is Carlo, dev tester, my persona. A dev tester like Carlo does not like testing, as I said, or eventually is neutral to testing. But if he has to automate, he will love to do so staying in his IDE, right? He would like to do so by coding. He would not like to use record, replay, or scriptless or any other fancy feature. He just likes to see code, whether it's JavaScript or C++ or C# or depending, whatever language he's using, programming language he's using, that's where he would like to eventually use write automation. Chiara is a technical tester. And so what she, as a subject matter expert in testing, she does understand code. She understands, all the technicalities around it. She can sit down and collaborate with developers, understands technology, but she does not like to write and automate tests in an environment that is going to be an IDE for her, but it's more like scripting, high-level scripting languages, but also scriptless and therefore leverage, record, and replay. Chiara won't mind using low code. By the way, I chose this name because I have a daughter that's called Chiara, and so Chiara as a technical tester, probably gets better off with low code type of tools. Here comes Rodrigo. Now, Rodrigo is a business tester. And what does a business tester want to do? Well, a business tester has business domain skills. It doesn't have any technical skills, neither really scripting or coding skills. Maybe might learn to do some if it's really high level scripting, but prefers basically codeless. He really would, he won't mind running automation, and maybe he won't even notice that he's automating tests if there's a tool that is allowing him to do the manual test the first time and recording all of that and being able then to replicate it, to repeat it once it's completed that journey for the next round of testing. So basically, Rodrigo likes no code. Now, Chiara, Carlo, and Rodrigo basically are first-class citizens in what we call here this is the continuous delivery loop, and in each step, analyze, plan, design, build, test, release. There's a lot of work that gets done by different individuals, and Carlo, Rodrigo, and Chiara are going to be part of that. Now, these activities in an agile world, of course, how do they work? They're not really stepped one after the other, but they're all happening in parallel in a very collaborative way inside the team. And that's where you will have your, different testing personas. You might not have all three of them. It depends on the applications and depending on the steps in the life cycle. There might be times where you're going to have more of a business tester, times where or the tester will play more of a business tester role. Sometimes these roles, can be also played by the same person, especially business and technical. It depends. It really depends on the type of applications and the type of companies, but they're going to be collaborating inside of these small teams of individuals that are developers, that are release, people focused on release, people focused on professionals that are focused on the requirements and the analysis together with the tester. So this is the village it takes to build, deploy, and test and deploy applications in the new world. Small teams, very effective, highly collaborating, tools being integrating on the different jobs that need to be done, and so basically what this means is that this has an impact on the way the tools serve these roles, right? Especially the testing roles. I do a wave, and in this wave, you can see that I had 15 vendors. Each vendor gave me at least 3 clients. So these are, about 60, were 58 clients. I would call them, top clients of the top-notch vendors that were part of the wave. And I surveyed these clients, and I asked them, well, can you tell me if the tool that you're using, how good of a job does it do with these 3 personas that I just defined, right? Well, you can see that most of them were happy with how the tools would serve their technical and dev testers, less happy with how they would serve the business testers. So existing continuous functional test automation tools can do better and will be doing better in terms of making sure that these different personas can collaborate in that environment. And as a matter of fact, another question I asked them was, do you prefer best of breed approach for each type of testing, different tools and serving the different testing personas, or do you prefer a unified integrated platform? And 72% said we prefer an integrated unified platform that gives me a consistent testing persona experience, a tool that has to be integrated into the CI/CD tool chain with a lean test management capability, and providing coding, low code, and codeless automation, right? So the tool, the trend I think we're going to see is more and more testing vendors provisioning integrated test platforms, serving all the different types of testing more and more, and an environment where the experience is consistent, where I can go from one persona to the next persona in a consistent way. Interfaces, are easy to use, and collaboration can be, and that collaboration that you saw, collaborate, being the key of that continuous delivery work that needs to be done, being met, right? So the test platform is preferred, is an integrated suite with these capabilities. But that's not enough. What we're going to see in the next 2-3 years is that this is all becoming, as you saw when I put that red circle around the technology stack, there is more smartness that we need to introduce and that we're going to see being introduced in testing. I've been writing about this. There's 2 aspects. One is the use of testing in AI, and the other one is the testing of AI applications. Today, we're really focusing on AI in testing. I think some of you that might have attended the presentation I did last year was all about AI in testing. And I wrote part 1 on the testing of AI, and part 2 is coming soon. So stay tuned on that. But what we're going to see is the impact of AI being leveraged in the testing tools. So let me take a little bit of a step back here and explain this concept of AI, which is not seen, at least we don't see in Forrester AI as replacing individuals, but more as augmenting human intelligence. And so basically what we're saying is that AI and humans form a great collaboration, and I would say actually augment each other. So AI is very good at delivering superhuman insight. You know that with machine learning, we can process huge amount of data, which have very complex correlations that we can't, as humans, ever figure out, especially at the lightning speed that AI would do that. On the other hand, AI also can automate some processes that are maybe mundane tasks that are even boring, and that we do automatically and very in a repetitive fashion. AI can take that and do that much better than us. Once you've automated it, it's going to be, and you test it, it's going to be of high quality. There's no, it won't make mistakes. It won't get sick. The system will just be there and do the work for us. But what AI can't do is be creative as we are. It can't figure out something new if the context changes, not the AI that we have today. Right. So it can't fill the gaps in a context. It can't really reason or explain everything. And so it struggles also to instill trust. Testing is very important for creating trust. So the question is, if AI can augment the human intelligence, as I was just describing, right? If I'm using all that data to make better insights, can it also augment testers? And the question and the answer is yes, it can. And it can augment basically all three of these roles, maybe more the technical and the business testers, providing a high level of abstraction for these. Maybe you can write tests in natural language and tests get executed. Not maybe, that's what we're seeing happening. As a matter of fact, some of the, I'll show in a minute, but basically, I'm not alone. I started this research 2-3 years ago, and I felt I was really alone. I'm no longer alone in believing that AI really is going to be critical in the testing world. You can see that again in the World Quality Report. 88% will think that AI is the strongest growth path for their test activities, and 80% will have more AI trials and proofs and concept in place. So this is a real thing, right? It's not going away. And in 2019, I already predicted this, and I studied and figured out some of the use cases where AI would be used. And you can see that from these use cases that we had identified 2 years ago, these are moving more from becoming, that some of them were mostly a myth because they didn't have enough ecosystem around them, because the technology wasn't too mature, and they're becoming more of a reality. The ones that are on the left side were already a reality when I was writing about this research. So you could use AI for visual testing for more precise and with no false positive negative or negative false negatives, for doing some automation and generation of tests, for clustering and managing defects so that you could quickly repair, you could quickly fix code which were code of bugs which were all similar. Once you've done it for one, you know that the other bugs would be solved the same way, so mean time to repair would reduce. API test generation, test lifecycle optimization. And what's happened in these few years, right, that have gone by, there's a number, there's more use cases that are being added, and some of the right side are becoming more mature. You've got more self-healing now in the tools. You have smart automation. So in other words, code change happens. Can I, do I have to run all the regression tests, or can I just run the tests that are really, really of the code that is impacted by the change I made? That's intelligent automation. So it's more about not ruthless automation, but it's about smart automation. It's about using insights for optimizing what I need to test, what I need to spend my testing time on. And last but not least, it's improving the tools to making the tools easier with codeless and no code. And again, that's a big trend that we're seeing. AI is being used by the testing vendors to create these codeless environments. So what AI is also going to do, it's basically going to offer my three heroes here of business, technical, and developer testers the opportunity to collaborate, not just within the rest of the team, but actually collaborate with AI bots, AI test bots. Each of those use cases, you can think of about a bot that is there and that you can leverage as a tester. So Rodrigo, who is a business tester, can use test automation generation bot from natural language, for example, or to help him optimize the test life cycle. Chiara can use a bot that will help her optimize all the regression suite, or do a better job at visual testing. And maybe because she doesn't like writing code, but she wants to still do some API testing, or the bot can help her do API testing, although if she, although it's a bit more technical for what she would like to do, for what she could do. So basically, in other words, on one side, you've got Carlo, Rodrigo, and Chiara, and now you've got also the bots. So the question is now we've got teams that are mixed between humans, Carlo, Rodrigo, and Chiara's of the world, and you've got the bots, the software bots. And you might find yourself working side by side with the bots. You might be managing bots. Maybe one day bots might be managing you. And so the real question is, what is your robotic quotient for being ready for that? I'm mentioning this because this is a research we wrote in Forrester, which basically says as companies will want to leverage more AI, how ready are the people to work with AI? And that's what the robotic quotient is about, right? Are you ready to work with automation? Are you ready to be able, do you understand do you understand how to work with bots and how to use and leverage AI and machine learning? So I'm going to leave you with that question, and maybe next year we're going to be talking more about this. But this is a very important trend that I'm seeing happening. And with that, I thank you very much for your attention. And I think I probably took a few more minutes, but thanks again for having me, and enjoy the rest of the conference.